Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. More big developments in Rostermania, especially with regard to the coaching side. Crimsix potentially to FaZe's coach has been talked about over the last 24 hours. This would be absolutely blockbuster if it goes through, especially with Karma as OpTic's coach, Crimsix as FaZe's coach. Could be absolutely immense. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Lots of stuff to get into. Gonna start with this from Grayson here, Adam Adamu, over at the Toronto Ultra side, who says the following: fact bomb. Let's clear things up. Ultra have had no discussions with any team, either incoming or outgoing, for any player on our roster. Zero. Neither directly or indirectly through channels or otherwise. Fact bomb, he says. So, this is really interesting. I'm not sure I fully buy this, because apparently last year, FaZe wanted insight, and I'm pretty sure Toronto just told them no. But then I think Toronto, denied that there was even any, interest in them getting in, so I'm not exactly sure. And this Toronto camp is a bit weird, you know what I mean? We've heard many different things over the past several weeks as to what's going on, so it's tough to actually say what to believe. And there was clearly a time where Scrappy believed his teammates were going to get sold, even though they might say now, we were never going to sell anyone, we weren't going to make any changes. Scrappy was clearly convinced, what we heard a couple of weeks ago, that the team was getting, disrupted, CleanX was going to be sold, Insight was going to get sold, potentially to go to Thieves or something, and it was going to be a very different story. But yeah, apparently that never happened. But also what this does confirm, whatever is true and what's not, he's basically saying we're not making any moves, right? The team is as it is, with Hicksy's gone, obviously, they confirm that, and Envoy probably coming in, you would think. Which, if they can pull that off, which it seems like they will, is just a straight-up upgrade as far as I'm concerned, and makes them a real threat next season. I mean, they were a threat already, but they seriously will be next time around. Now, this also from the potentially new Boston guys. We've got this from Snoopy, with, look, it's anime GIF analysis here again on the TacticalRab channel, but here we go, here's one here from Snoopy, and then we get a similar one. Okay, it's not exactly the same. We get this from Ghosty at a pretty similar time. So it looks like those two are going to be teammates next year. So you've got Slasher, you've got Ghosty, you've got Snoopy as a team of three. The fourth is up in the air. I saw a couple of you guys mentioning Bance actually would be an interesting option in that team, because I think you want someone with a bit more experience in that fourth spot to partner up with these guys. You can probably get away with just Slasher having the experience, but I feel like that's a bit of a risk. I guess they've got a good coaching staff over there as well, but yeah, I'd be interested to see what Boston do for that fourth spot on the team that it seems like is still open in the air. There was also talk actually from this Opti account that returned to Twitter about, I think a Sib and Ghosty duo potentially on Thieves. But Ben and Ronnie say that's not the duo that they've heard for Sib, so this maybe adds more credence to the idea that Sib to subliners and partnering up with Skies could be an option over there. We talked about that earlier today, and also Ghosty with Slasher is the duo that we believe is going on. So lots of things happening at the moment. But poor Nachop, man, I mean, this guy's gambling away all his troubles here on stream because Thieves are in a tricky spot. And where does their rebuild even begin? That's my question. They might look at a couple of the former, Rokkr guys, the Cammy, the attaches, something like that. But it's going to be tricky because I don't know if they don't exactly have the money or what their plan is there. As I've said before, I think they messed up big time last off-season by not re-signing any of those guys to deals. Okay, Octane's still on the org as a content creator, but everybody else, it seems, is going to be gone. Kenny to OpTic, Envoy to Toronto, Drazah to FaZe. So it's not great for Thieves, and they're probably going to drop behind a lot of other teams in the rankings, right? Because they're going to be at best 5th next season in terms of theoretical rosters, and more than likely 6th because they're not moving quick enough to get the guys Slasher, Ghosty, and these players that are seemingly going to be on Boston next year, per our understanding. So, yeah, what players do, Thieves even look at? I mean, it's an absolute open book in terms of who they could try and sign. Plenty of free agents out there, and they will move faster than, Vegas or London, so I don't think you have to worry too much. But, I think they will have to be fielding a team with, players like Capsidel, and, and not exactly he's a bad player, but he's not a top SMG in theory, but that's where they're going to be next season, right? So, yeah, I mean, only 2 members remaining. We've got Octane here and, of course, Shane, who turned into the dog. So, unfortunately, he's not coming back, it seems, anytime soon. We'll also mention, though, we've got to talk about this coaching thing. So, Parasite mentioned at the end of the season, once again into coaching next year, many players in a similar boat looking to do the same thing after they retire. I think Parasite could be a very valuable asset. I know that Nature has mentioned in the past that they don't really want to go near Parasite from this perspective, and maybe that's understandable, maybe it's not, but hopefully it works out for Haggy and all the others trying to get into a similar position. But it's quite tricky, right? Because because nowadays you can't just walk as a pro player into a coaching job as you could previously. When coaches first started to become a thing like 5-6 years ago, if you were a former pro, you'd basically just get a job for free. Nowadays it's like, well, you know, people want to see some experience, some success, maybe did you coach in challenges, stuff like this. So it's a bit more tricky. You have to have a bit of a resume, I think, now to actually get this done. But this is where the questions come around to Crimsix. Every single year, it seems, at some point, there's rumours around Crowder potentially moving on from coaching FaZe. We talked about it last off-season, and there was a clip that came out about it, I'm pretty sure, and then Crowder obviously stayed on. But there was a theory as to whether Crowder could potentially go streaming full-time, because I think he's wanted to do that for a little bit and kind of be more like a consultant as FaZe's coach rather than a full-time coach. But it seems like he's still going to stay there, and there's been no rumours this off-season that Crowder's going to, you know, step down from the FaZe coaching role and go make content full-time, basically. But still, every single year it feels like there's some talks about that being a possibility. And then we get this from FaZe. What are we thinking? Would this roster win CDL champs? So we've got Crib, aBeZy, you know, Simp and Cellium, of course. This could be pretty nice on paper, I think, in theory. I know that Crowder's been joking about this, I think, over the last few days, that, oh, you know, the Crimsix return would be pretty nice. And then Crim says plot twist. But we also spot here, if we look closely, that he's verified and affiliated with Atlanta FaZe, which definitely caught quite some attention last night. And even Jacob L tweets it, so I don't know if he knows anything more on this than we currently do. But yeah, Crim is now Atlanta FaZe affiliation on his Twitter account, which is definitely strange because he's not part of Atlanta FaZe. He's part of FaZe Clan as a content creator. Now, there's a likelihood that they've just done this because either the FaZe main account doesn't have the money or something, because Atlanta FaZe, I guess, is run by Atlanta Esports Ventures, which is a different entity to FaZe, but they share the licensing and stuff. And if you look at FaZe's affiliates on actual FaZe Clan, it's only like, you know, the flank FaZe's shop and all this type of stuff. So there's no like players or content creators in here. So if they're going to verify you, maybe they'll do it another way. And it costs a bit of money to do this. But also it's like, you know, is this doing it under FaZe or Atlanta FaZe, sorry, is this like an expensive prank by Gersh and the social media team to pretend that this is happening? Or is there actually a chance that this could be the case? Because Crimsix has been on FaZe now for some time. And, you know, he's on their sim racing team, whatever. He's jetting across the world, just racing cars, having a good time, but I'm sure that FaZe wants him to do a little bit more in an ideal world, and it feels a little bit wrong when you've got a lot of other players, especially the old Dynasty guys, you know, Scump, Formal, you know, Karma, right? They're still heavily involved in at least the COD scene or some esport that we see on a regular basis. Crimsix has kind of like not got out of the spotlight entirely, but hasn't really been doing that much COD related. And it's not saying he should or he has to, but it just feels like, you know, as the greatest player ever by the numbers and the accomplishments, it'd be nice if Crim was more involved in the scene to some degree, whether that's, you know, getting on more the flank episodes or, you know, going to events and getting on the desk or something, like, or even just streaming and playing more often with the other creators in the scene. It would be nice to see, and we haven't really seen too much of it, but it might be returning because, you know, could you imagine Crim coaching the FaZe guys, given Karma is going to be coaching the OpTic guys? I mean, the storylines really do write themselves, right? If that was to be the case, I would love it so much. I don't know if it will be, but it's been rumoured over the last day or so that Crim to FaZe's coach, at least in some aspect or another, could be good, because Karma was not exactly going to be like OpTic's full-time coach necessarily. Like, he came in and was like, hey, like, I want to help these guys out, like, let me watch VOD or something. But I don't think his initial intention was like, let me be the full-time, always the head coach. I think he just wanted to help and give some ideas on control and stuff like this. But actually, he turned out once he'd done it, he quite enjoyed it. And it seems like, at least to our understanding, that it's going to be the same story next year with Karma returning to, you know, coach that team full time. And I also wanted to share this for you guys because pretty spicy, I thought. So Methodz we saw last night in that video we did when he was talking about how if you're Drazah, you should really be taking the OpTic offer. It doesn't make any sense to say no. Octane has an entirely different opinion. Funny in a way how, you know, Octane and Methodz were both members of that OpTic dynasty, right? The team that came around in the World War II days and not particularly good, especially the World Championship results. But Octane says straight up from his perspective, you always take the FaZe offer.
Chris.
Ask Sam on Methodz you always take the OpTic offer. I think you probably
That's
agree
the
with
stupidest shit ever.
Oh, you 100% disagree with Zen.
That's the stupidest shit ever. I think the clip requires context.
Yeah.
Because you can't blanket statement say that, because if the team that you're comparing that to is FaZe, then you're just a moron if you take OpTic over FaZe in its current state. But if the thing is, I use Boston, but if like it's like Boston versus OpTic, then yeah, sure, I'll take that fucking contract. You can't blanket statement.
And I know there's people that say, and understandably, that over the last couple of years, the amount of event victories for OpTic and FaZe have been the same, right? They won one event over the last 2 years, both of those teams, which is true. But in terms of average placement and average prize money earned, it is a different story. And Octane was, I mean, he mentioned it, that if FaZe had come to him and said, hey, Octane, we want you to join us as our fourth instead of Austin/Littlegoats, then he would have said, oh, I'm not so sure about retiring anymore, and might have considered it. So it depends what you want out of your career. But from his perspective, like, Octane's looking at greatness, he's looking at championships won and stuff like this, prize money earned and all this, and he's thinking, well, FaZe is the way to go, because yes, Pred, Shotzzy, Dashy should be a great trio, but it is unproven, right? You don't know how well they're going to work together. It's very likely they'll do very well together, but it's not exactly guaranteed. Whereas for the FaZe guys, you know what's going on. And just to look here, this is the average tournament placing per season, and it obviously peaked around even Modern Warfare 3 actually, but certainly when there was lots of events, Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare, averaging, you know, second or third really, and there were way more, you know, teams even at the events back then to some respects, so you could place worse and have an outlier that would drag you down. And then World War 2 was bad, dragged down by a couple of poor events including Champs. Black Ops 4, Modern Warfare 19 was better on the Huntsmen, and then, you know, it's been fourth, but this year was actually 6th on average, pretty much because of Major 1 and Major 5 were terrible for OpTic. And that puts, in terms of average placement, this past season for OpTic, despite being good in some respects, at their 12th best season ever, or their 3rd worst season ever by average placing. So I think you can look at that and understand where Octane's coming from. We'll also mention, because we know that Patty P is going to be biased on this to some degree, and of course the Subliners team may change. There may be further rumours by the time this video is going live, but I'm busy this evening, so it's going to be difficult to get everything sorted, but I'll do my best if things go completely crazy. But yeah, Priester might not be on the Subliners anymore, was the rumour we talked about earlier today, but even if that is the case or not, Subliners are 3rd in Paddy P's rankings. He's got Ultra as the best team going into next year, then FaZe and OpTic down in 4th, which, you know, is classic Paddy P, but maybe he's got a fair point. I mean, he says for Ultra they've got a straight up upgrade, Envoy for Hicksy, Drazah for Slasher, small upgrades, they were already top 3. Subliners wouldn't improve in this circumstance, keeping Priester, so they lose the edge to a couple of the other guys, but they're still good enough. And then, you know, his opinion on OpTic is Pred for Huke is a clear upgrade, Kenny for Ghosty is a clear downgrade, right? And that's the thing. Getting rid of Ghosty, still controversial, but I personally quite like the way this has gone actually with this Kenny thing. But very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.